Like one of the like I guess sad but also hopeful songs that I've ever heard is "Running Out," and like you listen to like those
Yeah.
lyrics where you
Running out of
literally
life at like 22.
well, but no, but still, but hey, I remember standing in front of your mom's house just down the street from here with Sean Higgins right as the Triggerman record was coming out, and you know Sean Higgins, um, he was just known for kind of being a certain way at times, but dude, he was like, I remember in front of your, you know, you were in front of your house, he was like, dude, Nelson, like, dude, these lyrics are some of the best lyrics I've ever read, and
Oh
so
yeah, that's the sweet of him to say. I mean,
I always remember that.
yeah, and you know, like I feel like, I feel like my strength is I'm a pretty good writer. Like I feel like I've always had that kind of gift to write. I don't want to get all braggadocious, but like I feel like so I felt with Triggerman, it was I always wanted to be in front of the band to write lyrics and do that. You know what I mean? And sing and stuff. But like that was my strong point. Like I was like nothing else. I can write lyrics, and they were dark and they're a little dramatic, but I feel like they're honest. You know what I mean? And there's some hardcore songs in there, like that first record, Impression. You know, it's an anti-racism song,
Right.
and there's a song called. Which funny too. In this culture, like there's a song on the Triggerman album called Limit, which is about the media and like poison journalism. And I just laugh because I'm like, yeah, dude, like, you know, like I think I wrote that. So I read Manufacturing Consent by Noam Chomsky, and I wrote Limit, which is kind of my interpretation. His book is obviously more connection of the government and the media to, you know, sell you on war and products in America, and mine is more like, you know, Petty Poets with Poison Pens, which is Ian MacKaye embraced, right?
Well, it's funny that you bring up Limit, because I was thinking about that song too when you wrote it. Because I remember asking you, hey, what's this about? And you're all, it's about trash journalism, blah, blah, blah. And what I wanted to ask you was, so you were writing about, this was like early 90s, you're writing about trash journalism. What would you say about it now? I mean, it's
awful, dude. I mean, here's what I find funny about the political culture is the conspiracy theories and the conspiracy world and like the media's ought to get us and can't trust them. That all through my childhood growing up and into was a liberal left wing stance. Like those are the people who believe that it's all good. And to see that go all the way full to the right, and that's now their mantra is like can't trust the media. It's fascinating because you're like, oh wait, you guys are the conspiracy theories? Like what? I thought we were the ones in the conspiracy theories. And then I think it's so, I mean, it sucks. It's different than the media that Chomsky's talking about in Manufacturing Consent, because that, like I said, is more in sync with the government to sell you on what they want you to do. And what's happened is now it's just all based on ratings and clicks. It's all based on like click right? So, and so like, I find it insane that CNN and Fox News will report stories on each other. Like, here's a news station, the top story tonight, over on Fox News, John Hannity said this. And then on Fox News, like, well, the top story tonight, you know, over on CNN, Anderson Cooper laughed at Donald Trump's speech. It's just like, what are you, that's not even news, man. I hate it. I only like to watch Shepard Smith has an NBC show, and I've always liked Shepard Smith. He's a Fox guy, but it's just straight up news. Like here's the facts. Like the news you grew up as a kid, and like that's what I want. I don't want talking heads. That's a huge mistake that's happened in this country. In this is that the talking head shit got so much better ratings than the evening news that that's what dominates the news channels. They're just like, here's an hour of someone's opinion. It's like, fuck you, man. Like, you know, there's a reason we can't beat COVID and we don't even know. We're still arguing about masks. One news channel's like, hey, man, like, masks are bad. And on the other one, you know, masks are good. And obviously I'm on the side where I believe masks work and we should be worn. But I get why these fucking dudes who are watching Newsmax and shit don't. Like, you know, they don't even believe the election was real.
See, that right there is something, that even-handedness, because like you are someone that if anybody knows you, they know where you fall politically. You know, you don't need me to tell you where you fall politically, but it's always been interesting to me because this obviously comes out in your lyrics and stuff like that, and you know, in just sort of your persona to kind of laugh at a lot of things. Like, you know, I remember you were reading a Bill O'Reilly book once, and I was like, dude, why are you reading a Bill O'Reilly book? And you're like, and you just kind of explained, like, listen, some of what he says is bullshit, but there's sometimes he says things, and it's like, okay, you know, it's just that ability to be even-handed.
Yeah, because you don't want to believe everything you read, right? Like,
right.
That's the trap. That's why we're in this country, why everyone's divided, because people in their hyperboles, and they don't, like, you know, if you just watch Fox News, which I know a lot of people do, and now they're watching Newsmax, which is crazier.
Right,
but like,
right.
You're like, I mean, you're being fed propaganda from a political, the right wing's point of view, nonstop. Like they're, you know, and then in fairness, if you're watching, you know, CNN, which used to be more in the middle, but if you're watching that, or especially MSNBC, like you're not getting all the truth. You're getting people who want you to like root for their guy. It's like team sport. It's crazy. Like, and that's why we're so divided. It's like, dude, like we, you know, my grandpa fought in World War II. My like, I will tell you this. That generation had it way fucking tougher than we ever had. They were at war with the Nazis and the Japanese in a gigantic, all-encompassing war. And they had to do it. And, like, if no one gave a shit if you were Republican or Democrat, it's just like, we got to beat the Nazis. Like, we're going to get wiped out, you know? And that's what those lessons, you know, I was very close to my grandfather. And so, like, I know that mentality. And it's just like, you got to reach across the aisle. And like, not everyone, most of my friends are Republican on the Sloth crew, well, half and half. And like, and they're my friends. I don't care.
Well, that's one thing.
Let's talk about Dave Smalley real quick. Dave Smalley's one of my favorite people. I don't care that he's fucking Republican.
Right.
Like, cares? Like, that's like, you know, like, that's not a deal breaker, but we got to, as a country and as a group of people, like, come together and be like, hey, man, like, what, you know, we would be out of this COVID mess already if we were working together from the start, from the beginning. Well, especially if we had a different leader at the time who would have been like, "Hey, man, we got to take this seriously."
We'll see.
Like,
that right there, and also like talking about Trump. I remember saying to someone, because you know I just know people that you know I found out this guy's a Trump supporter, and I'm not even talking like QAnon, or I'm not talking about like one of the, I don't want to say crazies, but you know what I mean. And I remember saying to someone, listen, if we're going to start not being friends with our friends because we think they supported Trump or something, we're not going to have a lot of friends left. Like, it's really going to get weeded out.
It's a weird thing. And obviously, there's nothing worse for our society, and it's really addressed in this new Triggerman record, than social media. Social media is the real undoing of our culture, because you have people who are addicted to it. You're on Facebook. Comedy, fighting. Like I made the mistake at the very beginning of the Trump thing. I was very aggressive and very anti. Because I was a little bit worried where it was going. Because I was like, dude, this guy's a monster. Like this is insane. Like I'm not saying like I understand the argument not voting for Hillary Clinton, but at the time I'm like I'm not that stoked on her either. But like what? This is the guy?
Right.
Like, the game show host? And so and I got into real big arguments with Kurt Canales from Chain of Strength, who's like, and I could tell, and I could tell my Facebook page, because people were always writing me and stuff saying like, I love reading the comment section of your Facebook page, because I would throw something up and there'd be like 300 of these, I had all these right wing people on there. They'd just be arguing, burning each other, and people they were reading it as entertainment and being stoked and complimenting me. And thinking like, and it's nothing against them. I understand what they're saying, because I was obviously instigating it. I thought it was fucking funny too. Like let's shake up the cats and throw them out in the fucking street, you know? Like, but I started thinking like, this is bad. Like I'm being part of the problem. Like, and so I got off that. I just stopped debating everyone. I pulled way back.
Like, so this new record, it's more focused on kind of our world today, which makes sense because. You know, I mean, even though I know that a lot of the lyrics and stuff like that, when you first played me this record, it was before COVID. Like COVID, we weren't as confined as we are now. But I think I've spoken with you about this before. Like a lot of the lyrical content in Triggerman songs, dealing with like looking back on friendships, maybe looking back on friendships that you thought were one thing, but then were actually another thing.
Yeah, like yours.
Yeah. But
the record's about you, and you haven't noticed yet. If you really listen to this record,
all of it,
it's about you.
All of it.
It's about you.
Oh man. Well, no. What's really interesting is we didn't like each other. That's the best part. But like then there was one summer, like you came back from a tour, and I was like going into 10th grade, and like I think I just kept coming around, and you just guys like gave up.
I never didn't dislike
Oh, you didn't like me. When we were really young, you did not like me.
I think it was fun. I thought it was funny that you and your like nerd crew thought you were going to step to me in the neighborhood. Like,
oh, I remember that day.
Yeah. You was like, your 3 nerd buddies.
You kind of had that coming.
Mess with the wrong dude.
Well,
but obviously I love you. We're going friends. Your older brother, Andrew, I've known him and been friends with him since I was in, grade school or junior high. And I think the reason we became friends, and the reason I was really good friends with Jake, your brother, is because he had a computer. You're latchkey kids, I'm a latchkey kid, and so your parents are getting home. And if on certain days he had that computer, and you could dial into like a BBS, like a dial-in modem, and put the thing. And I was fascinated with that world, like the BBS world, and like the early days of what's now the internet, but it was dial-up modems. So I went over there a lot and hung with your brother.
But he was savvy with all that stuff, right? Like there was a point he was really ahead of it.
Yeah, because he's such an interesting human, because he was way ahead of that. He was involved in this world of this BBS scene. He was known in it. Like he had this world of guys that had nothing to do with anything but like his BBS world that were there. And that's throughout his life. He's done that. Like, I don't know if he still is, but he's really into podcasts at the time. And he was like, he had all these like podcast friends, and there's all these random dudes that you would see him on social media tagging each other. And your brother's like bragging about podcasts. They have like 60 people listening to him. Just like, it's insane, but I kind of love that about him, because he's his own man, dude. He's carved his own path in this world, But lyrically, I do want to say something I think is important is that the writing style of that changed. So it's when the Triggerman lyrics, because you're saying they're personal and stuff, they're always written in the first person, and that's how I write. So it's like I, as you're talking about me, you're pointing the finger at me. This time I've had to purposely change the way I wrote, which is all second person or third person. You're pointing out. So that was an interesting exercise, because I didn't want to have the word I in any single song. It made it into one song called Dissolve, which was one of the first songs we wrote, because I hadn't kind of formulated the plan yet as we were working on this. But for the most part, that was intentional. There's no curse words on this record. Like, that was intentional too, because I had in my mind that I need to talk about this so people understand. I've had for a long time, I always want to have a children's choir do courses in hardcore songs, because I thought it would be a real interesting juxtaposition of like kids singing. And so with this, there were certain words or certain songs that I was like, man, this would be really cool if kids sang this, because you're basically talking about being let down in life. So I thought that would be more powerful coming from a child's voice than my voice, because I'm like a 50-year-old dude. And we were able to locate through a guy named Stan DeWitt, who's a friend of Derek O'Brien's, a group called the Long Beach Youth Chorus. And they, thank God, they came in pretty much a week before we shut down officially for COVID, like when COVID was first kind of new, and did these gang vocals that are on 3 songs or 4 songs, parts, and they're just awesome.
It's like haunting. It's almost haunting. Yeah.
Because the one song they sing on called "How Do We Get Here" is about the environment problem we're going through, the climate changing problem. And I was really obsessed with that when I first started doing the Triggerman record. All I was reading was books like The Fifth Extinction and all these climate change books, and trying to really understand it. And it's frightening. Like it's a happening thing. It's it's happening before our eyes, and we're so stuck in the mud, And so I just thought it would be amazing if the kids were singing called "How Did We Get Here?" If they were singing "How Did We Get Here?" Because the point is like, how do we get here?
Right.
And I think it's powerful. Like, and they end the record. They begin the record and they end the record, which is important too. So there's a song that kind of bookends the record. It's called "It's Only Natural," but it's like a vignette, really. It's not a complete song. And they sing these lines. It's basically poison our air, poison our water, poison our food, poison our land. And then there's like 8 of them, and that's how the record ends. It's like poison everything. And then the record kind of fades out into like the abyss. And that's, to me, it's just like, if you get to the end, you're like, okay, well, these guys are on a mission. They're trying to say something.
A few bands later, Carrie Nation took the stage. Shortly after that, Judge, a band from New York, took the stage. Andrew and I left a few songs into their set. As I was leaving, Nelson introduced me to Greg Brown, Scott Sundahl, Paul T., and other members of a group known as the Orange County Sloth Crew. Eventually, they would nickname me Mushnik, which was a character I had been in a high school play. On the ride home, I had no idea that those people I had just met would become and would be the gateway to the best friends I would ever have.